AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she destroyed my wedding to get revenge on me. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Lily, 26F, and we used to be incredibly close. We grew up in a rough household. Our parents were emotionally distant and fought constantly, so it was basically just the two of us against the world. I protected her when things got bad, shared everything I had, and helped her get through school. When I got my first real job, she was the first person I took out to dinner to celebrate. For years, I thought we had the kind of bond that couldn't be broken. Apparently, I was wrong. About 3 years ago, Lily moved in with me after she broke up with her boyfriend. I had just started dating my now husband, Ben, 31M. Lily and Ben got along well, almost too well. They'd joke around, share memes, and sometimes hang out even when I wasn't home. I didn't think much of it at first. I liked that they were friendly. But then little things started to bother me. I'd walk in from work and find them sitting close together on the couch, whispering. She'd laugh too loudly at his jokes. One night, I overheard her telling him, "You deserve someone who really gets you," and it made my stomach twist. When I confronted her, she brushed it off and said I was being paranoid. A few weeks later, Ben proposed. I was ecstatic, and Lily acted thrilled too, helped me plan, picked out decorations, even offered to be my maid of honor. I thought maybe I'd overreacted before and that everything was fine. Fast forward to the wedding day. It was beautiful. An outdoor ceremony, perfect weather, my dream dress, everything. Until Lily gave her speech. She started by talking about how much she loved me and how proud she was. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "I just want everyone to know, when Ben and I first met, I thought he might be the one for me. But I'm glad he found my sister instead. She always takes what I want anyway." The whole room went silent. You could hear the gasp ripple through the guests. Ben looked like someone had punched him. My mom tried to laugh it off, but it was painfully awkward. I could barely breathe. I wanted to crawl under the table and disappear. Afterward, Lily acted like it was a joke that just didn't land. She said I was too sensitive and that people were overreacting. But it didn't feel like a joke. It felt calculated. And it ruined the mood of the entire wedding. Ben and I still went on our honeymoon, but there was this shadow over everything. He assured me nothing ever happened between him and Lily, and I believe him. Still, the way she framed it made me question everything. When we got back, I told Lily I needed space. She exploded, said I was choosing a man over family, and accused me of kicking her out when she had nowhere else to go. I told her she could stay for a few weeks while she found another place, but that we needed distance. Instead of looking for somewhere, she spent her time moping around the apartment, making passive-aggressive comments about my perfect new husband and how I owe her everything. After 3 months, I finally told her she had to move out. That was 2 years ago. I didn't hear much from her after that, except for a few texts calling me selfish and fake. I tried reaching out once to mend things, but she ignored me. I figured we'd never really reconcile, and I accepted that. Then, last month, Lily showed up at my door out of the blue. She looked rough, like she'd been through something. She said she'd lost her job, her apartment, and most of her friends, and that she needed a place to stay just for a little while. Ben was at work, and I told her I'd talk to him about it, but I wasn't sure. She got defensive immediately, saying, "You owe me after what you did." I asked what she meant, and she said, "You took everything from me. Ben, your friends, even Mom sides with you. I'm just asking for help." I told her I was sorry for what she was going through, but that I couldn't let her move back in. I offered to help her find a room to rent, and even said I'd pay her first month's rent. She screamed that I was heartless, that family helps family, and stormed off. Later, my mom called, saying I was being cruel. Apparently, Lily told her I refused to help her while living in a big house with spare rooms. My mom said I should forgive and forget because life's too short for grudges. But here's the thing, I don't trust Lily. I can't. The last time I let her into my life, she humiliated me in front of everyone I love. I'm not willing to risk that peace again. Still, I feel guilty. She's my sister, and she really doesn't have anyone else. Part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh, if I should let her stay temporarily. But another part of me knows that once she's in, it'll be impossible to get her out again without more drama. Ben supports me completely, but I can tell he feels bad too. He even offered to pay for her motel room for a few weeks, but she refused, saying she deserves to be with family, not thrown away like trash. Now, my relatives are divided. Some think I'm protecting my boundaries. Others think I'm heartless for abandoning my sister when she's down. A few nights ago, Lily sent me a long text saying she's never forgiven me for stealing the life she should have had, and that she just wanted one chance to be part of the family again. I didn't respond. I showed Ben, and he said, "This is why we can't let her back in." I keep replaying everything in my head. The speech, the fallout, the years of resentment I never saw coming. I used to think I'd do anything for my sister, but now I'm not sure if helping her means letting her keep hurting me. So, am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister move back in after what she did at my wedding? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in with me after she betrayed me to my ex. I, 32F, own a small 2-bedroom condo that I bought about 5 years ago after working my way up in my company. I was incredibly proud of that purchase. It felt like proof that I could stand on my own after a rough childhood. My sister, Lily, 27F, has always had a much more chaotic life. She dropped out of college, bounced between jobs, and had a long string of unstable relationships. We've always had a complicated dynamic. I'm the responsible one, and she's the free spirit. Last year, Lily broke up with her boyfriend and was essentially homeless. She called me crying, begging to stay with me for just a few weeks until she could find her footing. I said yes, because she's my sister, and I couldn't bear the thought of her living out of her car. I made it clear that it was temporary and that she needed to contribute a little to groceries and utilities once she found a job. At the time, I was dating my boyfriend, Eric, 35M, and we'd been together for nearly 2 years. Things were serious. We talked about marriage. Lily met him a few times before, but once she moved in, they started seeing each other more often because he was over a lot. Initially, she seemed genuinely happy for me. She would joke that I had finally picked a decent one, and I thought she meant it. About 2 months into her stay, I started noticing weird vibes between them. It wasn't obvious, just little things. They'd laugh at inside jokes I didn't understand, text occasionally when I wasn't around, and once I caught her wearing one of his hoodies. When I asked about it, she said she just grabbed it because it was cold. I brushed it off, telling myself I was being paranoid. But the tension kept building. Eric became more distant, less affectionate, and started staying late at work more often. I'd ask him what was wrong, and he'd say he was just stressed. Meanwhile, Lily seemed to be going out a lot, but never told me where. One night, she didn't come home at all. When I asked the next morning, she said she'd crashed at a friend's place. Then, about a week later, I got a message from an anonymous Instagram account. It had screenshots of texts between Lily and Eric. They were clearly flirting, and worse, there were messages implying they had been meeting up behind my back. One of them read, "She has no idea. I feel bad, but it's just easier this way." My heart dropped. I confronted Eric first. He didn't even try to deny it. He admitted they'd been seeing each other for a few weeks. He claimed it just happened, and that he and I had been drifting apart anyway. He even had the nerve to say he connected with Lily because she was more spontaneous than me. I kicked him out immediately. Then I turned to Lily. She tried to justify it by saying she didn't mean to hurt me, that she and Eric had real chemistry, and that I wouldn't have lasted with him anyway. She kept crying and saying she didn't know how to stop it once it started. I told her to get out. She begged me not to, said she had nowhere to go, and promised to make it up to me. I didn't care. I told her she had 48 hours to find somewhere else. She left that weekend and moved in with a coworker. I blocked Eric on everything and cut Lily off completely. For months, I didn't speak to her. My mom kept telling me to forgive her because family is family, but I couldn't. I was heartbroken, not just over Eric, but over losing trust in my own sister. Fast forward to now, almost a year later. Lily called me 2 weeks ago, crying again. She said she lost her job, can't make rent, and that her roommate is moving out. She said she's been trying to get her life together, but just needs a few months to stabilize. I told her I was sorry, but she couldn't move back in. She started sobbing, saying I was cold-hearted and that it's been a year and I should be over it. She argued that family doesn't abandon each other. I told her that what she did wasn't just a mistake, it was a betrayal. She slept with my partner under my own roof. I can't trust her, and I don't feel comfortable sharing my home with her again. My mom and younger brother think I'm being too harsh. Mom said, "You don't have to be best friends, but you shouldn't let your sister be homeless." My brother told me I'm holding a grudge and that everyone deserves a second chance. But I can't shake the image of her sneaking around with Eric while I was in the next room. Every time I think of her being in my house again, I feel sick. Still, part of me feels guilty. I know she's struggling. I know she doesn't have many options. But I also think that if the roles were reversed, she wouldn't have shown me the same mercy. Lily's always been the kind of person who expects everyone else to clean up her messes, and I think that's part of why she never changes. She sent me a long text yesterday saying she's really disappointed in me and that she thought family meant more to me than my pride. I didn't respond. But now my mom's been calling nonstop, saying she might have to take Lily in even though she can barely afford her own bills. Mom guilt-tripped me by saying, "You have a stable home. She just needs a chance." I don't think stability means I owe her another opportunity to hurt me. I tried to be the good sister once, and she destroyed one of the most important relationships in my life. If I let her back in, I feel like I'd be telling her that what she did didn't matter. Still, I can't shake the guilt. Am I being too unforgiving? Is it cruel to refuse help to family, even when they betrayed you that deeply? AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in with me after what she did. AITA for refusing to give my sister my house after she lost hers, even though my parents are calling me heartless. I, 34F, bought my first house 3 years ago. It's nothing huge, a 3-bedroom ranch-style home in a quiet neighborhood, but it's mine. I worked for years to get it, saving every spare cent while juggling 2 jobs and paying off student loans. I've always been careful with money, partly because I watched my sister, Tina, 36F, do the exact opposite. Tina has always been the fun sibling. Growing up, she was charismatic and could charm anyone into helping her. My parents adored her and constantly bailed her out. Unpaid rent, car repairs, credit card debt, you name it. I was the responsible one who didn't need as much attention. So I got the classic, "you'll be fine" treatment while Tina got the rescues. I don't resent her for that. It's just the dynamic we grew up with. About 6 months ago, Tina and her husband, Mark, bought a large house they couldn't afford. They said it was an investment and that they planned to renovate and flip it for a profit. I warned her that interest rates and repair costs were insane right now, but she brushed me off, saying I was just jealous because I played it safe. Fast forward to last month, they lost the house. The renovation costs skyrocketed, the market dipped, and their contractor ghosted them halfway through. They defaulted on payments, and the bank took it. Now they, along with their 2 kids, 7M and 5F, are living with my parents. Last week, my mom called and said Tina was going through a hard time and needed a place where her kids could have stability. I said I understood and asked how I could help. Mom then said Tina wanted to move into my house, as in me move out and let them live here for a while. At first, I thought I misheard. I asked, "Wait, you want me to move out of my own home so Tina can live in it?" She said yes, that since I'm single and work remotely, I could find a small apartment or Airbnb for a few months. Apparently, Tina had already been over to look at the space while I was at work, which I did not authorize, and told my parents it was perfect for her family. I told my mom that's absolutely not happening. She said I was being selfish and that family helps family. I reminded her that I worked for years to buy this house, and I'm not giving it up. Mom said Tina has children, and I don't understand what it's like to be a mother desperate to keep her kids comfortable. I said it wasn't my responsibility to fix Tina's bad financial decisions. Cue the meltdown. Tina called me crying, saying I was heartless and choosing a house over my niece and nephew. I said I wasn't choosing a house. I was choosing not to uproot my life for her mistakes. She said I owe her because our parents always helped me more, so it's my turn to give back. That logic made zero sense, but she seemed to believe it. Then Mark texted me something that really pissed me off. He said, "We'd only need it for 6 months max. You can even charge us rent if that makes you feel better." When I asked how much rent they were thinking, he said something fair like $200. My actual mortgage, taxes, and insurance total over $2,100 a month. I laughed and said, "If you want to pay $2,100 plus utilities, sure." He called me greedy. Since then, my parents have been relentless. They keep telling me that family should come before material things. My dad even said, "You'll have more houses one day. Your sister needs help now." When I asked why they couldn't let Tina stay longer with them, they said their house isn't big enough and that it's stressful having kids around. I told them if it's so stressful, they can pay for an apartment for her. My mom hung up on me. A few days later, I came home to find Tina's minivan in my driveway. She and her kids were on my porch with boxes. She said she assumed I'd changed my mind because Mom said you'd calm down. I lost it. I told her to get off my property or I'd call the police. She looked genuinely shocked and said, "You'd really kick your own family out?" I said, "Yes, because you broke into my home and tried to move in without permission." She left crying and apparently told everyone in our extended family that I threw her kids out onto the street. Now I'm getting texts from cousins and even my aunt calling me cold and materialistic. One cousin said, "You're single. You can crash anywhere." She has a family. I'll admit, I started to doubt myself. I could technically afford to rent somewhere short-term, but something about it feels so wrong, like once I give up my home, I'll never get it back. Tina's temporary needs have a habit of becoming permanent. I know her. 6 months will turn into a year, then 2, and I'll still be paying the mortgage while she gets back on her feet. To make things worse, my parents came over yesterday unannounced. My dad told me I'm dividing the family, and that if something happens to my parents tomorrow, you'll regret not helping your sister. My mom cried and said she raised 2 daughters, not a landlord and a tenant. I told them I love them, but my answer isn't changing. They left in silence. Since then, I've been completely cut off from them. They won't answer my calls, and Tina blocked me on everything. I feel torn. I don't want to destroy my relationship with my family, but I also can't shake the feeling that they're manipulating me into fixing a situation they created by constantly enabling her. My best friend says I'm absolutely right to stand my ground, and that if I cave once, I'll never get peace. But a small part of me feels guilty because of the kids. None of this is their fault. I even offered to pay for a month of rent somewhere else to help them transition, but Tina refused because she won't accept charity from someone who won't even share her house. It's been 2 weeks, and the silence is getting to me. I keep wondering if I could have handled it differently. Maybe I could have let them stay in one room temporarily or something. But then I remember finding her boxes on my porch like she already owned the place, and I realized how easily she would have taken over. I worked so hard for this house. I sacrificed vacations, nights out, and years of exhaustion to get it. I can't give it up just because my sister refuses to be responsible. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my sister my house after she lost hers, even though my whole family thinks I'm heartless? AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée use my house for their wedding after what they did at my own wedding? I, 33F, have always been the responsible sibling. I bought a small but beautiful farmhouse for my grandparents 5 years ago after saving for years. It's the kind of place people always call Pinterest-worthy. Lots of greenery, a big backyard with string lights, an old oak tree, and even a barn that we renovated into a cozy event space. My brother, Tyler, 29M, has always been more of a free spirit. He bounces between jobs, dates a lot, and tends to rely on family for help when things get tough. I don't resent him for it. We just live very different lives. 2 years ago, my husband Ben, 35M, and I got married at the farmhouse. It was a small, intimate wedding, just close friends and family, about 50 people total. Tyler was my only sibling, and despite him being a bit unreliable, I wanted him there. I even gave him a role as an usher because I figured it was easy enough that he couldn't mess it up. His then-girlfriend, now fiancée, Ashley, was invited too, though we weren't particularly close. She's intense, very social media driven, always performing for the camera, and not great at respecting boundaries. The wedding day itself was perfect, at least for the first few hours. The ceremony went beautifully. The food was great, everyone was dancing, and I was genuinely happy. Then Ashley decided she wanted to do something special for Tyler. She told Ben's cousin, who was the DJ, to play a song for the couple. I thought she meant for Ben and me, so I didn't think much of it. Suddenly, Tyler and Ashley were on the dance floor, and she grabbed the mic to announce that they had something exciting to share. In front of all my guests, during my wedding reception, Ashley announced that she and Tyler were engaged. She even had him get down on one knee right there. He looked stunned, but went along with it. People clapped awkwardly, a few cheered, and someone even shouted, "Congrats." Meanwhile, I was standing there frozen, watching my wedding turn into their engagement party. Ben was furious, my mom was embarrassed, and my dad was trying to keep the peace. I pulled Tyler aside afterward and told him that what they did was beyond disrespectful. He said it wasn't his fault, that Ashley got caught up in the moment, and that I was overreacting. Ashley, on the other hand, told me I should be happy for them, and that it made my wedding even more special because two couples were celebrating love. I told them both to leave early. It was awkward and tense, and the rest of the night felt tainted. For the next few months, I didn't talk to Tyler much. He texted a half-hearted apology a few weeks later, but it was mostly along the lines of Ashley didn't mean any harm. I let it go eventually for the sake of family peace, but I never really forgot it. Fast forward to this summer. Tyler and Ashley are planning their wedding for next year. Money's tight for them, and apparently they've been struggling to find an affordable venue. A few weeks ago, Tyler called me sounding unusually cheerful. He said, "We have an idea that'll make everyone happy." I should have known that was a bad sign. He asked if they could have their wedding at my farmhouse. He said it would be perfect, that it already has sentimental value, and that it would bring the family full circle. He promised they'd take care of cleanup and expenses, and Ashley chimed in the background saying it would look amazing in photos. I told him no. I said I didn't feel comfortable hosting after what happened at my wedding. He laughed and said, "Are you still hung up on that?" I told him yes, because it was incredibly disrespectful. Ashley jumped on speakerphone and started guilt-tripping me, saying I was being spiteful and punishing them for something that happened years ago. I stayed calm and told them they're free to find another venue, but my answer was final. That's when Tyler snapped. He said I was holding a grudge over a small mistake, and that family should forgive and move on. I replied that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it definitely doesn't mean giving them free use of my property for a 150-person wedding. He called me selfish and hung up. Since then, my parents have been divided. My mom sides with me. She said what they did at my wedding was out of line and that it's my property, my decision. My dad, however, thinks I should be the bigger person and help family when they're in need. He said, "You're not using the house that weekend anyway, so what's the harm?" I told him the harm is emotional. It feels like rewarding bad behavior. Ashley's been posting vague stuff on social media about toxic family members and jealous energy. A few relatives have texted me saying I should reconsider, that it would mean so much to Tyler, and that I should just let bygones be bygones. Ben's firmly in my corner. He said he'll support whatever I decide, but admitted he's angry they even had the nerve to ask. He pointed out that if they truly regretted what happened at our wedding, they'd have understood why asking to use the same venue might sting. Instead, they acted entitled to it. Last weekend, my parents hosted a small family dinner, and Tyler was there. Things were awkward. At one point, Ashley brought up venue stress loud enough for everyone to hear, then looked directly at me and said, "Some people just love to hold grudges." I told her calmly that I'm not holding a grudge. I'm setting a boundary. She rolled her eyes and said, "It's just a house." That's when I lost my patience a bit. I told her, if it's just a house, then it shouldn't matter where you get married. Tyler got defensive and said I was being cruel, and we ended up leaving early. Now my dad won't stop calling, saying I'm tearing the family apart over something that happened years ago. My mom says she's proud of me for standing firm, but worries the tension will ruin future holidays. Part of me wonders if I really am being stubborn. I could technically let them use the property. It's big enough, and I could stay elsewhere for the weekend. But another part of me feels like doing so would send a message that what they did at my wedding was fine when it wasn't. It was selfish, humiliating, and it still stings every time I think about it. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let them use my house for their wedding after they hijacked mine. AITA for telling my sister that her husband's mystery illness is just laziness and that I'm done helping them until he gets off the couch. I, 32F, have an older sister, Claire, 35F, who has always been a little dramatic. She's been with her husband, Luke, 37M, for about 10 years, married for 6. I used to really like Luke. He was charming, funny, and seemed to make her happy. But over the past 3 years, he's changed completely. According to Claire, Luke has been sick. It started during the pandemic when he got laid off and began spending a lot of time at home. He complained about fatigue, headaches, and brain fog. He said he couldn't concentrate on anything and would sometimes sleep until 2 p.m. Claire took him to doctors, but nothing conclusive ever came up. Blood work was normal, no chronic illnesses, no infection markers, nothing. He started saying he had post-viral fatigue, even though he'd never tested positive for anything. The thing is, Luke stopped doing everything. He quit looking for work, barely helped around the house, and started gaming most of the day. Claire picked up extra shifts at her job as a nurse to make ends meet, but she'd come home to find dishes piled up, laundry undone, and Luke asleep or playing on his computer. For a while, I felt bad for both of them. I helped babysit their son, 5M, brought meals over, and offered to clean up sometimes. But as time went on, I started noticing a pattern. Luke only seemed too sick when it came to anything productive: work, cleaning, childcare. But if his friends invited him to a concert or a gaming convention, somehow he'd have a good day. He'd go stay out late, drink, and then be exhausted for a week. Claire defended him constantly. She said I didn't understand what it was like to have a partner with an invisible illness. She joined online support groups for spoony spouses and started talking about Luke's energy envelope and recovery windows. I wanted to be sympathetic, but it was hard to ignore the fact that Luke seemed perfectly fine when it suited him. Things came to a head last month. Claire called me crying because their electricity had been shut off. She asked if I could loan her $300 to cover the bill until payday. I helped, but I also asked her why Luke wasn't applying for remote work. She got defensive and said he physically can't handle stress. Then, last week, I went over unannounced to drop off some hand-me-down clothes for my nephew. Luke was sitting in the living room in his underwear, gaming with his headset on, laughing with his friends. Empty soda, cans everywhere, the smell of weed in the air, and dishes stacked high in the sink. I said hi. He barely looked at me. Claire came home about an hour later, exhausted. She asked Luke if he could at least take out the trash while she made dinner. He said he was having a crash day and couldn't move. Then, no joke, he got back on his computer 5 minutes later. Something in me snapped. I told Claire I needed to talk to her privately, and I said, probably too bluntly, that Luke wasn't sick, he was lazy, and she was enabling him. I said she was running herself into the ground for a man who clearly didn't care about her or their son. I told her I wasn't going to keep helping out financially or with babysitting until she stopped pretending he was some tragic victim of chronic fatigue. Claire started sobbing, saying I was cruel and heartless and didn't understand. She told me Luke had good days and bad days, and that I was judging him based on the wrong moments. She asked me to leave, so I did. The next day, Luke texted me from her phone. He said I was ableist and that I had no right to comment on his medical condition. He said I was banned from their house until I apologized. I didn't respond, but since then it's gotten messy. My parents think I should apologize just to keep the peace. They believe Luke is exaggerating but don't want family drama. My brother thinks I did the right thing and that Claire needs a wake-up call. The thing is, I know invisible illnesses exist. I know chronic fatigue is real. But I also know what it looks like when someone just doesn't want to take responsibility. I've seen Luke drink beer, play 8 hours of games, and laugh until midnight, then claim he's too weak to pick up a laundry basket the next day. I feel guilty because I know my sister is struggling. She's constantly exhausted, and she adores Luke and wants to believe he'll get better. But I also think she's living in denial. Their son is growing up in a house where mom does everything and dad does nothing. It makes me angry and sad at the same time. Now Claire won't speak to me at all. My nephew had a birthday party last weekend, and I wasn't invited. I heard through my mom that Claire told people I humiliated her and mocked a disabled person. I don't think I mocked anyone. I spoke the truth, but maybe I did it in the worst possible way. I didn't raise my voice, but I was cold. I told her straight out that I thought her husband was using her, and maybe that crossed a line. Sometimes I wonder if I should have handled it differently. Maybe I should have kept helping her quietly, hoping she'd come to her senses on her own. But part of me is angry that I'm the only one who seems to see what's happening. My sister is drowning. Their bills are piling up, and Luke is still talking about maybe starting a YouTube channel when his energy improves. It's been 2 weeks now, and I still haven't heard from her. My parents keep urging me to be the bigger person and apologize just to get back in touch with my nephew. But it feels like lying. I can't pretend Luke is genuinely ill when every piece of evidence points to him just being a selfish man who refuses to work. So here I am, torn between guilt and frustration, wondering if I went too far. Did I cross a line by calling it out? Or was someone finally supposed to say what everyone else has been thinking? AITA for telling my sister her husband isn't sick. He's just lazy and refusing to help them until she stops enabling him. AITA for refusing to give up my late wife's engagement ring to my daughter for her wedding. I, 56M, lost my wife Claire 9 years ago. We've been married for 24 years, and she was the absolute love of my life. Losing her was brutal. I went through a dark period after she passed. Therapy, grief groups, the works. She was thoughtful, funny, and one of those people who made everyone around her feel seen. We had 2 kids together, Emma, 28F, and Jake, 25M. Emma is getting married next spring to her fiancé, Daniel, 30M, who seems like a decent guy. I'm genuinely happy for her. She's been talking about wedding plans nonstop, and I've been trying my best to be involved without being overbearing. Here's where things got complicated. A few months ago, Emma asked me if she could have her mother's engagement ring to use as her own. The ring is a one-of-a-kind piece Claire designed herself, a modest diamond surrounded by tiny sapphires. She loved sapphires, said they reminded her of the sea. It's beautiful, but not extravagant. I still keep it in my safe along with a few other things of hers I couldn't part with. When Emma asked, I told her I'd think about it. I didn't want to say no right away, but I also wasn't ready to say yes. That ring isn't just jewelry to me. It's a tangible piece of the woman I lost. I still sometimes take it out on her birthday and hold it. It's the one thing that makes me feel close to her. I spoke to my son about it. Jake said it was ultimately my choice, but admitted he thought Mom would want Emma to have it, especially since Emma was the only daughter. That stuck with me. I know Claire was big on passing things down, but she also used to say she wanted us to move on and be happy, not just live in memories. After sitting with it for a few weeks, I told Emma that I wasn't ready to part with the ring. I explained that it meant a lot to me personally and that maybe one day, when I'm gone, it could go to her or Jake. I even offered to help her pick out a similar ring or contribute to a new custom design inspired by her mom's. She did not take it well. She got very quiet at first, then teary. She said she'd always imagined wearing Mom's ring and that it felt like I was keeping part of her mother from her. She accused me of clinging to the past and said that Mom would have wanted the ring to be part of a new chapter, hers. I tried to explain that it wasn't about not wanting to share her mother's memory, but that I needed more time. I didn't say it out loud, but truthfully, I don't know if I'll ever be ready to see that ring on someone else's hand. Not even my daughter's. After that, she didn't talk to me for a while. Then, a few weeks later, I got a call from my sister, Emma's aunt, saying Emma had been venting to her about how selfish I was being. Apparently, she told my whole extended family that I'm hoarding Mom's memory and that she just wants to feel close to her mother on her wedding day. My sister sided with Emma and said I was being cold-hearted. My brother, on the other hand, said he completely understood and that people grieve differently. So now the family's divided, and I feel like I've somehow turned my wife's memory into a battleground. 2 weeks ago, Emma came over again. She apologized for snapping at me, but she also asked if I'd reconsider just for the wedding day. She said she could borrow it, wear it during the ceremony, and then give it back. That offer honestly made me pause. It was kind and considerate, but the thought of seeing that ring on her finger, even temporarily, still made my chest tighten. I told her no again. I tried to be gentle, but she started crying, saying it felt like I didn't trust her with her own mother's things. Later, Daniel called me privately. He wasn't rude, but he said, it's not just about the ring, right? It's about your daughter feeling like you're keeping her mom away from her. He said Emma's been having a hard time emotionally because she always pictured her mom helping her get ready, and the ring felt like the one way to include her. That conversation really hit me. I went home that night and sat with the ring for hours. I even imagined what Claire would say if she were here. Maybe she'd tell me to give it, maybe not. But I couldn't shake the feeling that once I let it go, even for a day, it wouldn't be mine anymore. It would be part of Emma's story, not ours. Then, last weekend, during a family dinner, Emma brought it up again, this time in front of everyone. She said, "Dad, can we please settle this? Everyone agrees Mom would want you to have it." My family stared at me, waiting. I told her firmly, "Emma, I love you," but the answer is still no. She burst into tears and left the table. My sister muttered something about me being emotionally frozen, and Jake got up to comfort Emma. Now, half the family isn't talking to me, and I've been labeled the selfish widower who won't let go. I know I sound like I'm clutching onto the past, but that ring is the last thing I have that feels untouched by time. Everything else has changed, the house, the people, even me. When I hold that ring, it's like she's still here in some small way. I told Emma I'd be honored to help her design a new one, but she said it wouldn't be the same. I can understand that, but I also can't force myself to give something away that still feels sacred. Now she's talking about not inviting me to certain parts of the wedding until I'm ready to be less controlling. That broke me. I've always supported her, and now I feel like I'm being punished for loving my wife too much. I don't want to hurt my daughter, but I can't bring myself to let go of the only piece of Claire that still feels like it's truly ours. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my late wife's engagement ring to my daughter, even if it means damaging our relationship. AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée use my late wife's wedding dress for their wedding, even though it's just sitting in my closet. So I, 35M, lost my wife, Hannah, 3 years ago. We were together for 10 years, married for 6, and she passed away suddenly from an aneurysm. It was completely unexpected and devastated me. For a long time, I couldn't bring myself to touch any of her things. Her wedding dress hung in the garment bag at the back of our shared closet, and though I eventually started to move on with life, that dress remained there. I didn't keep a lot of her things, but that dress was sacred to me. Fast forward to now. My younger brother, Josh, 30M, got engaged to his fiancée, Mia, 28F, about 8 months ago. I like Mia fine. She's bubbly, confident, very direct, sometimes to the point of being insensitive, but I chalk that up to personality differences. I was genuinely happy for them. When they started wedding planning, they mentioned wanting to do a sustainable and low-cost wedding. I offered to help with some logistics since I've worked in event management. About a month ago, Mia came over while Josh and I were working on some decorations in my garage. She wandered inside to get a drink and must have looked around the house because later that evening, she casually asked, "Hey, is that Hannah's dress in your closet?" I froze for a second, but said yes, I still had it. She smiled and said, "Oh, I was wondering, would you consider letting me wear it for our wedding? I think it would be so meaningful, and it's just such a waste for it to sit there forever." I was stunned. I told her no immediately. I said that dress was one of the few personal things of Hannah's I kept, and that it wasn't available to borrow. Mia looked surprised, then offended. She said she didn't mean any disrespect, but thought Hannah would want her dress to be part of another love story instead of gathering dust. I told her that she didn't know Hannah, and that the dress wasn't hers to interpret the meaning of. She got quiet but didn't argue further, at least not then. 2 days later, Josh called and said Mia had been crying over how rude I was about the dress. He said he understood it was sensitive but asked me to reconsider because it would mean the world to Mia and it was just fabric that I was hoarding out of grief. That pissed me off. I told him my grief wasn't up for debate and that if Mia wanted a sustainable wedding, she could thrift a dress like everyone else. He hung up on me. Since then, it's become a huge family issue. My mom thinks I should have handled it with more grace, meaning I should have offered a kinder refusal. But my dad is fully on my side and said it was a wildly inappropriate thing to even ask. My sister thinks it's not a big deal and said, "It's not like Hannah can wear it again." What hurt most, though, was finding out Mia told her bridal party and even some of my cousins that I'm bitter and possessive and that I refuse to let love move on. A cousin of mine, who I barely talk to, even texted me saying, "You need therapy if you're still this hung up after 3 years." Here's the kicker. Mia texted me again last week saying she'd been doing research on ways to preserve a dress after use, and she could clean and restore it for me better than it's being preserved now. She said she would only alter it slightly and would even add a small patch inside the dress in honor of Hannah. She ended with, "Think about how poetic it would be, two marriages connected through love." I didn't respond. Josh called again 2 days later, furious that I was making Mia feel unwanted in the family. He said I was turning grief into a shrine and that Hannah wouldn't want me stuck forever. I lost it. I told him if he or Mia mentioned that dress again, they'd both be uninvited from my house and any future events I hosted. Now things are icy. Josh says I've ruined his excitement for the wedding because there's tension in the family. My mom asked me to apologize just to smooth things over, and Mia apparently told her friends she's mourning a dress she never got to wear. Last weekend, during a family dinner, Mia actually brought it up again, this time in front of everyone. She said something like, "I just wish we could all share in Hannah's memory instead of treating her like a ghost." My dad immediately told her to stop talking. I excused myself and went home. Later that night, Josh sent a long text saying I was making everyone uncomfortable and that my reaction proved I wasn't ready to let go. He said it would have been a beautiful gesture of family unity. I didn't reply to him either, but I've been thinking about it constantly since. Part of me wonders if I did overreact. I didn't yell or insult anyone initially, but I did threaten to cut them off after the repeated boundary crossing. Maybe that was too harsh. I understand they're planning their wedding and emotions are high. But that dress is not just fabric to me. When I see it, I remember Hannah laughing while trying it on, twirling in front of the mirror, saying it made her feel like a walking piece of sunlight. That's the memory I want to keep intact, not replaced by someone else's version of what's beautiful. My best friend thinks I'm absolutely right and that Mia's behavior is entitled and disrespectful. My therapist says it's not about the dress. It's about control, grief, and emotional boundaries, and that I did well to enforce mine. Still, I can't help but wonder if I've caused unnecessary drama by being so firm. My mom's subtle guilt trips are getting to me, and Josh hasn't spoken to me since that dinner. He's even told my dad he might not invite me to the wedding because I don't support their marriage. So here I am, questioning myself. I don't think I owe anyone my late wife's dress, but I also don't want to be the reason my brother's wedding turns into a family feud. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée wear my late wife's wedding dress and for threatening to cut them off if they kept pushing. AITA for refusing to give my sister the wedding venue I booked even though she got engaged after me. So, I, 28F, have been with my fiancé, Liam, 30M, for 8 years. We got engaged in 2023 and decided to take our time planning the wedding because we want to save up and do it right. We booked our venue, a beautiful lakeside estate about 40 minutes from our city, last summer. It's honestly my dream location, and we reserved it for June 2026 because that was the earliest available weekend. Now, my younger sister, Hannah, 26F, has always been a bit of a whirlwind. She's spontaneous, impulsive, and sometimes a little self-centered. I love her, but she's always been used to getting her way. Growing up, if I got something nice, say a new phone or a fancy dress, she'd cry to our parents until they got her the same or better. It's been a lifelong pattern. Anyway, Hannah got engaged 3 months ago to her boyfriend, Ben, 27M. They've been together for just over a year, and I'll admit I was a little surprised by how fast things were moving. Still, I congratulated them and even offered to help with planning since I've been in the wedding process for a while. A couple of weeks ago, during a family dinner, Hannah announced that she and Ben had picked their wedding date, June 2026, the same month as mine. I didn't think much of it at first. June is a popular month, but then she said something like, "We found the perfect venue too, the one by the lake." I nearly choked on my drink. I told her that was the venue Liam and I had already booked. She looked shocked for a second, then laughed it off and said, "Oh, I thought maybe you'd change your mind. You've been planning for so long. I figured you'd want something different by now." I told her no, we still have the reservation, and the venue was very clear that all weekends that month were fully booked. She got quiet and changed the subject. The next day, my mom called me and asked if I'd consider letting Hannah have the venue. I asked her why on earth I would do that. Apparently, Hannah had been trying to book it for the exact weekend after mine, but the venue was already reserved by another couple. She had her heart set on that location because it's perfect for their aesthetic. My mom said since I booked it so far in advance, maybe I could find something else. You have plenty of time. I told her no. We chose that date and venue for a reason, and we've already paid a large deposit that's non-refundable. My mom started guilt-tripping me about how Hannah doesn't handle disappointment well, and that as the older sister, I should be more understanding. I said it wasn't my problem if Hannah wanted to plan a wedding in the same month as mine and couldn't get the same venue. Over the next week, it turned into a full-blown family drama. Hannah texted me saying she was heartbroken and accused me of being selfish. She said she'd always looked up to me and wanted her wedding to feel like mine, which is why she wanted the same setting. She then suggested that since my wedding was a week before hers, I could transfer the venue to her and rebook somewhere else. She even offered to cover the deposit, as if that made it reasonable. I told her absolutely not, and that I found it incredibly rude that she'd even ask. That's when she started crying and said she felt like I was trying to one-up her by holding on to the venue just to make her look bad. My dad called me later that night to tell me he agreed with me. Finally, someone sane, but he said it would probably be easier if I just gave in to keep the peace. That made me furious. Why is it always me who has to sacrifice things to keep the peace? I told him I'm done being the one who folds every time Hannah throws a tantrum. Things escalated further when my mom organized a family meeting last weekend. She framed it as a way to talk things through like adults. What it really turned into was my mom and Hannah trying to emotionally manipulate me into giving up my venue. Hannah even had a PowerPoint presentation, yes, seriously, with mood boards showing how perfect the lakeside estate would be for her romantic garden theme. I sat there stunned while she described her dream wedding at my booked location as if it was already hers. When she finished, my mom looked at me expectantly and said, "See, it would mean so much to her." I said, "Good for her. She can find somewhere else." Hannah stormed out crying, calling me a jealous control freak. My mom accused me of tearing the family apart over a patch of grass. Now most of my extended family knows about this because Hannah made a vague Facebook post about people stealing her joy. A few relatives have reached out to say I should be the bigger person, but most of my friends say Hannah is completely out of line. Liam is firmly on my side and even offered to talk to my parents himself, but I told him not to get dragged into it. Still, I can't shake this feeling of guilt. Not because I think I'm wrong, but because I know my family will make me the villain until the wedding actually happens. I can already imagine the passive-aggressive comments, the whispered gossip, the tension at every family gathering. Part of me wonders if I should just let her have it to avoid all the drama. But then I remember that we've been planning this for years. It's my dream venue, and I refuse to give it up because my sister didn't plan ahead. Now the family is split. Half think I'm being selfish and materialistic, and the other half think Hannah is acting entitled. I haven't spoken to her in almost 2 weeks, and my mom keeps texting me asking if I've changed my mind. I know this sounds petty, but it's gone so far beyond a venue at this point. It feels like every childhood resentment is bubbling back up. The years of her being the favorite, of me being expected to accommodate her moods. I'm tired of it. Still, I can't help but ask myself if I'm the one making things worse by standing my ground. Maybe it really is just a venue, and maybe I should care less about proving a point. But at the same time, I feel like if I give in now, I'll be setting the tone for every future conflict with her. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my sister the wedding venue I booked, even though she's making it out to be a huge family betrayal? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after what he did at my wedding. This whole situation blew up about 6 months ago, but it's still causing problems in my family. I, 30F, got married to my husband, 32M, last year. It was a small but elegant ceremony. Nothing over the top, but we spent a lot of time planning every detail. I was honestly so proud of how it turned out. My sister Emily, 27F, was my maid of honor, and her fiancé, Jake, 29M, was one of the groomsmen. From the beginning, I had some concerns about Jake. He's one of those people who always has to be the center of attention. He jokes too much, drinks too much, and doesn't really have an off button. My family often excuses him by saying, "That's just Jake," but his behavior has embarrassed Emily more than once. I try to keep things civil since he's basically family now. The night before the wedding, we had a rehearsal dinner at a restaurant. Everything was going fine until Jake got drunk and started making jokes about how I used to have a crush on him years ago. For the record, I didn't. When I was 20, I mentioned once that I thought he was cute before they even started dating. That was it. He made a big scene, saying things like, "Guess I made the wrong sister fall in love with me first." Everyone laughed awkwardly, and I brushed it off to keep the peace. The actual wedding day should have been perfect, but during the reception, Jake decided it was time for his surprise speech. I had specifically told everyone, only the best man and my sister were giving speeches. But he grabbed the microphone anyway. He started with some jokes that were okay at first, but then it took a weird turn. He began talking about how every man knows the feeling of watching a woman walk down the aisle and thinking, "Damn, I missed my chance." People laughed nervously. Then he said, "I'm not saying that's me today, but," and winked at me. My jaw literally dropped. My husband looked furious. It got worse. He made a few more comments implying that my husband won the race and that Emily lucked out because I was too slow to notice her sister first. I could feel my face burning. My mom was glaring daggers at him, and Emily was whispering for him to stop, but he just kept going. Finally, my husband's best man walked up, took the microphone, and said, "All right, I think we've heard enough from Jake." Everyone clapped awkwardly, trying to diffuse the tension. I spent the rest of the night trying not to cry. The photographer caught one picture of me forcing a smile, while Jake is in the background laughing with a drink in his hand. It still makes me sick to look at it. Emily apologized profusely the next day. She said Jake didn't remember half of what he said and that he was mortified. But when I confronted him a week later, he brushed it off and said, "It was just a joke." Everyone laughed. "You need to lighten up." That was the last straw for me. Since then, I've avoided being around him. Emily and I are still close, but I made it clear that Jake isn't welcome at my house. She initially understood and said she'd respect that. Fast forward to last month. Emily called and asked if she and Jake could stay with us for a week while their apartment was being renovated. I told her she was welcome, but Jake was not. She got quiet, then said, "So you expect me to stay somewhere else just because you're still mad about a speech?" I said it wasn't just a speech. It was my wedding day. He humiliated me in front of everyone we love, and he never actually apologized. I told her I didn't feel comfortable having him in my home. She started crying and said I was being cruel, that I was punishing her for his mistake. My parents got involved, of course. My mom sided with me and said Jake crossed every possible line that night. But my dad said he was drunk, he was stupid, but it's been a year. You need to let it go. Emily keeps saying I'm damaging her relationship because Jake now thinks I hate him and that I'm trying to drive a wedge between them. I finally told her that if Jake ever wants to talk to me like an adult and apologize sincerely, not just brush it off as a joke, then maybe we can move forward. But until then, he's not stepping foot in my house. She said that was emotional blackmail. The kicker? 2 weeks ago, Jake texted me out of nowhere. It said, "Hey, heard you're still mad about the wedding, LOL. Don't worry, if you ever renew your vows, I'll keep my mouth shut this time. I didn't respond. I just sent a screenshot to Emily and said, "This is why." She didn't reply for days. Now she barely talks to me. When we saw each other at a family dinner, it was painfully awkward. She was cold and distant, and Jake acted like nothing happened. My mom says I'm right to hold boundaries, but my dad says I'm being dramatic and that Jake will always be part of the family whether I like it or not. I feel stuck between wanting peace and wanting to stand up for myself. My husband says he supports me completely and that Jake humiliated both of us, but he also thinks this whole thing is tearing my family apart. Part of me wonders if I'm being too stubborn. Maybe I should just let it go for Emily's sake. But every time I picture that moment, him standing there, holding the mic, smirking while everyone watched, I just feel angry all over again. My best friend said something that stuck with me. You're not mad because of one speech. You're mad because he never showed you respect, and now your family is asking you to act like he did. I don't know. Maybe I could have handled it better. Maybe I should have made him leave the reception immediately instead of trying to save face. Maybe then he would have realized how serious it was. But I didn't want to ruin the night even more than he already had. Now it feels like the damage is permanent. Emily has been avoiding me, and I miss her. But I also can't bring myself to invite that man into my home and pretend everything's fine. Every time I try to talk to her about it, she says, "You're making me choose between you and him." I told her I wasn't asking her to choose. I just needed her to understand why I have boundaries. She said that's the same thing. So now I'm left wondering if I'm the problem. Maybe I'm holding on to a grudge that doesn't matter anymore. Maybe I should have accepted his "that's just Jake" nonsense like everyone else does. But then I think about how he laughed in my face the next day, how he keeps making jokes about it, how Emily is crying because I won't bend when he was the one who caused all of this. So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after what he did at my wedding. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law stay with us after she secretly recorded me during a family dinner. So I, 33F, have been married to my husband Jake, 35M, for 7 years. We have a 4-year-old daughter, Lily, and live in a nice, modest house that we've worked hard for. Jake has a younger sister, Emma, 28F, who has always been difficult. She's the kind of person who always thinks everyone is against her, takes offense easily, and loves drama. Emma and I were cordial for years, but we were never close. She has a habit of making snide comments about my parenting, our finances, and how Jake changed after marrying me. Jake usually brushes it off, saying, "That's just how Emma is." I've tolerated it for peace. About 3 months ago, Emma lost her apartment after her roommate moved out unexpectedly. She asked if she could stay with us just for a few weeks until she found a new place. Jake immediately said yes, but I hesitated. She'd always been judgmental of how we ran our home. I didn't want tension. But Jake insisted, promising it would be temporary. At first, things were fine. She helped with dishes, played with Lily, and acted grateful. But slowly, small things started to pile up. She'd make passive-aggressive remarks like, "Wow, you let Lily watch cartoons during breakfast? My mom never let us rot our brains that early." Or, "Must be nice that you can afford takeout. I guess Jake's salary really upgraded since he married you." One night, we hosted Jake's parents and his older brother for dinner. It was supposed to be a relaxed evening, but Emma was on edge. She kept bringing up weird topics like how much influence wives should have over family decisions and how men shouldn't have to ask permission to see their parents. It was clearly aimed at me, since Jake and I had recently discussed setting boundaries with his mom, who likes to drop by unannounced. At one point, Jake's brother joked that Emma should get her own place soon, and she snapped, "Maybe if people didn't make me feel so unwelcome, I'd be happier to leave." The room went awkwardly silent. I tried to change the subject, but she muttered, "You love playing the perfect host, don't you?" After dinner, I went upstairs to put Lily to bed. When I came down, Emma and Jake's mom were whispering in the kitchen. They went quiet when they saw me. I didn't think much of it at the time. Fast forward a few days later. I was scrolling through Facebook and saw a mutual friend had tagged me in a local mom group post. It was titled something like, "When your S-Gel is a control freak," and featured a short video clip. My heart dropped when I realized it was me, sitting at that dinner table, saying something like, "I think it's healthy for couples to make decisions together, not just let one person call the shots." Someone had clearly recorded the conversation without my knowledge. You could hear Emma's voice laughing in the background. The caption read, "This is what emotional manipulation looks like, ladies." I was mortified. Dozens of strangers were commenting, many mocking me, calling me overbearing and condescending. I immediately called Jake, who came home early. We confronted Emma that night. At first, she denied it. Then, when Jake showed her the video, she admitted she had recorded it as a joke. She claimed she only meant to send it to a friend, who must have posted it by accident. I didn't believe her. She's very online and has a history of airing personal drama publicly. I told her I wanted her out of the house immediately. Jake hesitated, but eventually agreed. She packed up her things while crying about how everyone always paints her as the villain. His mom called me the next day furious, saying I'd humiliated Emma and that family should forgive mistakes. I refused to back down. I told her what Emma did was a huge breach of trust and that she wasn't welcome in our home again. Jake stood by me, though I could tell he felt torn. Since then, Emma has been staying with her parents. She's been posting cryptic things online like some people just can't handle honesty, and you try to help, and they throw you out. Her mother keeps hinting that we should make peace because Emma's going through a hard time. Here's where I might be the asshole. Jake's family is now barely speaking to us, and Jake said maybe I should have given Emma a chance to apologize before kicking her out. He says what she did was wrong, but that family fights shouldn't destroy relationships. I told him I can't live in a house where someone secretly records me to make me look bad online. It's not just disrespectful, it's malicious. Still, now that things have gotten so tense, I'm wondering if I overreacted by not giving her a chance to explain more or apologize properly. Last weekend, we ran into Emma and Jake's parents at a restaurant. She made a big scene about how cold I was being and loudly said, "Guess I should have asked for written permission before recording St. Sarah." The whole table nearby turned to look at us. Jake pulled me out before I could say anything. Now his mom has been texting him nonstop saying that I owe the family an apology for escalating everything and that I'm trying to turn him against his blood. Jake says he supports me, but admitted he wishes I'd handled it with more grace. I feel like I'm living in a bad reality show. My private words were made public. My reputation among some mutual friends is trashed, and somehow I'm the villain in his family's eyes. So I'm sitting here, weeks later, wondering if I went too far. Should I have accepted her apology and let it go? Or was I justified in drawing that hard boundary and refusing to ever let her stay here again? AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law live with us again after she secretly recorded me during a family dinner and posted it online? AITA for ruining my sister's wedding because I refused to lie about a family secret? I, 28F, am currently in a huge fight with my family, and honestly, I'm not sure if I'm a jerk here or if everyone else is just being dramatic. This all revolves around my younger sister, Emily, 24F, and her upcoming wedding. Emily and I have always had a complicated relationship. We were close when we were kids, but as we got older, our personalities clash more. I'm more outspoken and blunt, and Emily has always been more about appearances and keeping up with what other people think. Emily got engaged about 6 months ago, and from the start, I tried to be supportive. I helped her plan the wedding, offered to help with decorations, and even made a speech outline for her bridal shower. I honestly thought we were on decent terms. But about 2 months ago, things started getting tense when she told me she wanted me to handle a specific family issue at the wedding. Our mother has been struggling with her drinking for years. It's not secret in the family, but Emily wanted it to be completely hidden during the wedding. She asked me specifically to tell certain relatives who might know about her drinking that they shouldn't bring it up, and also to lie if anyone asked. Emily framed it as, "It's just for the wedding, no one will get hurt, and it will make everything perfect for me." I hesitated because I don't lie about serious matters, especially when it involves someone's health and safety. I told her I couldn't lie or cover for Mom. She got upset, claiming I was being dramatic and that it would ruin her perfect day. I thought this was an overreaction, but I figured maybe I could find a compromise. I suggested a private conversation with family members who are likely to ask questions or cause drama, and I'd be present to help navigate it without having to lie outright. Emily said no, insisting that everyone had to be told nothing and that it was my job to make that happen. 2 weeks before the wedding, things escalated. Mom had a rough patch and drank heavily during a family dinner that Emily had organized as a pre-wedding celebration. Some relatives noticed and were clearly concerned. Emily texted me in a panic, asking me to smooth things over and tell people it wasn't a big deal and that Mom was fine. I refused. I told her the truth. Mom has a drinking problem, and ignoring it won't help anyone. Emily exploded, accusing me of trying to ruin her wedding, saying that I was selfish and didn't care about her feelings. The day of the wedding arrived, and Emily was visibly stressed. I stayed out of her way, but during the ceremony, one of the relatives quietly asked me if Mom was okay. I didn't lie. I told them the truth in as gentle a way as possible, warning that Mom might need support. Immediately after the ceremony, Emily confronted me in front of several guests. She yelled that I had embarrassed her, ruined her dream day, and that no one would ever forgive me. She even said that because of me, she might reconsider having me in her life. Some guests were confused because they didn't know the full context, and Mom looked mortified and embarrassed. A few relatives thanked me quietly for being honest, but Emily's side of the family turned on me completely. My parents are upset too, saying that I should have put Emily first and kept the peace. Emily refused to speak to me for the rest of the day, and my family has been giving me the silent treatment ever since. Here's where I need an outside perspective. I understand that Emily wanted a perfect, stress-free wedding and that she feels I ruined that. But I also feel like lying about a family member's serious problem is wrong and potentially harmful. I didn't call Mom out in a cruel way. I just answered questions honestly and didn't participate in covering things up. I tried apologizing to Emily for the timing and the stress it caused, but she refuses to engage and has been posting subtle things on social media, implying I'm the disruptive sister. My parents are pressuring me to make amends by pretending nothing happened, but I feel like that's dishonest and sets a precedent that my feelings and principles don't matter. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to lie about my mom's drinking and for being honest when relatives asked, even though it upset my sister on her wedding day. The situation has left me questioning my relationship with my family entirely. I feel like I'm being punished for standing up for what I think is right, but maybe I should have just gone along with it for one day. On the other hand, lying about a serious issue just to make someone happy seems wrong to me, no matter how important the day is. I want to make peace with Emily, but I also can't compromise my integrity or enable harmful behavior. The wedding is over, but the fallout feels endless, and I genuinely don't know where I stand morally in all of this. AITA for refusing to give my sister the wedding dress our mom made for me, because she deserves it more. So I, 29F, got married 3 years ago to my husband, Jake, 31M. We had a small but beautiful ceremony that was mostly DIY. My mom, who passed away a year later, had made my wedding dress by hand. She was an incredible seamstress, and the dress was honestly stunning. Lace bodice, open back, long train, the whole thing. It was sentimental not just because of how beautiful it was, but because every stitch was hers. When I got married, my younger sister, Sophie, 26F, was my maid of honor. She cried when I walked down the aisle and kept saying how Mom would have been so proud. We were really close back then. Fast forward to this year. Sophie got engaged to her boyfriend, Ethan, 28M, and immediately started planning this huge wedding. She's always been more extravagant than me, which is fine. But about 3 months ago, she called me and asked if she could wear my wedding dress. At first, I thought she was joking. I told her that while I totally understand the sentiment, the dress is extremely special to me, and I plan to keep it as a family heirloom or maybe pass it on to my own daughter someday. Sophie doesn't even wear the same size as me. She's a few inches taller and broader in the shoulders, so it would need altering. She got quiet and said that Mom would have wanted her to wear it too, since Mom made it for one of her daughter's weddings, not just mine. I told her gently that Mom made it for me specifically for my body and my wedding. It had personal touches that were meaningful only to me. My birthstone sewn into the lining, little embroidery of my initials, and wedding date inside the skirt. Sophie got annoyed and said I was being selfish and that it was just a dress. She said I could easily let her wear it and then get it dry cleaned and boxed up again. I told her it's not about the cleaning, it's about the meaning. The next day, I got a text from my dad saying I should at least consider it, because Mom would have loved to see both of us wear something she made. I reminded him that Mom was alive when Sophie started dating Ethan and never once mentioned making her a dress. She made mine because she wanted to, and it took her almost 6 months. Dad said I was being petty. A week later, Sophie came over unannounced. She brought her maid of honor, her best friend, Lily, and they both sat me down. Sophie had this whole pitch prepared. How expensive weddings are, how meaningful it would be to share the dress, and how Mom's legacy would continue. Then Lily chimed in and said I already got my turn and should let Sophie have hers. I told her no, again, and said she was free to incorporate some of Mom's old fabric or lace in her own dress if she wanted a connection. I even offered to pay for a seamstress to use a piece from one of Mom's old sewing projects. Sophie rolled her eyes and said it wouldn't be the same. After she left, she didn't speak to me for weeks. My dad kept calling, telling me I was ruining Sophie's big day over a piece of clothing. Jake told me he'd support whatever I decided, but thought I was in the right. He saw how much that dress meant to me. Then things got worse. A few weeks ago, I went to my dad's house for dinner, and Sophie was there too. Everything was tense, but civil until she suddenly said she found a compromise. She wanted to take the dress and alter it slightly to make it her own. She'd keep the lace bodice but change the skirt and neckline. I was stunned. I said that's not a compromise. That's destruction. The dress wouldn't even exist anymore. She said it would still have the essence of Mom's handiwork. I refused again, and she started crying, saying I was holding the dress hostage out of guilt over Mom's death. That hit a nerve. I told her I wasn't using the dress to cope with grief. I was preserving something meaningful. She stormed out, called me a heartless bitch, and later texted me that she didn't want me in her wedding party anymore. Now, the wedding is in 2 months, and apparently she's told most of our extended family that I refuse to share Mom's memory. I've been getting messages from aunts and cousins saying things like, "You already got to feel special in that dress. Let your sister have her turn." My dad hasn't exactly defended me either. He keeps saying I should just let it go for the sake of peace. It's gotten to the point where I'm second-guessing myself. I keep thinking, am I really being that selfish? I understand she wants to feel close to Mom, but so do I. The dress is one of the only tangible pieces I have left of her that feels untouched, whole, and mine. It still smells faintly like the perfume she wore when she hugged me before the ceremony. Every time I open the box, I remember her smile and her hands guiding the needle through lace. I tried calling Sophie to talk things through calmly. I told her I loved her and that maybe we could find another way to honor Mom together at her wedding, like sewing one of Mom's favorite quotes inside her veil or using some of her lace in a bouquet wrap. Sophie said it's too little too late and that she doesn't want my pity projects. Jake thinks she'll come around eventually, but I'm not so sure. Part of me wonders if I should have just let her borrow it and hoped she'd return unharmed. But knowing Sophie, she probably would have altered it without telling me. I keep going back to the day Mom finished the dress. She held it up, proud and teary, and told me, "This is one of a kind, just like you." That memory is sacred. I can't imagine handing it over, even to my sister, knowing she'd change it. Now the family is divided, half saying it's my right to keep it, the other half saying I'm letting sentimentality ruin my relationship with my only sibling. Sophie still isn't speaking to me, and apparently she's bought a new dress, but keeps telling people she had to settle because of me. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister wear the wedding dress our mom made for me? AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she borrowed my identity to get her dream job? I, 29F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Natalie, 31F. We're close in age, but couldn't be more different. I'm the quiet, studious type who's always been focused on school and stability. Natalie is the social butterfly, charming and impulsive, who somehow lands on her feet no matter how messy things get. Growing up, I was the responsible one, while Natalie got away with things because she was just being creative. When I was in college working part-time and managing scholarships, Natalie was switching majors every semester and relying on our parents for support. They'd always say, "She'll find her way eventually," while I was expected to already have mine. Fast forward to 2 years ago. I landed a really good job as a project analyst for a mid-sized tech firm. I worked hard for it. In turn, built connections, the whole deal. Natalie, on the other hand, had just been fired from her third job in a year. She moved back in with our parents and complained constantly about not being able to get her foot in the door in marketing. Last year, I got a call from HR at another company, one that happened to be a direct competitor to mine, asking to verify some details about my employment history. I was confused. I wasn't applying anywhere. After some back and forth, it turned out someone had used my full name, my degree info, and my previous job title on application. I thought it was a mistake. Then they sent me the resume. It was Natalie's. She had literally copied my resume, changed the email and phone number, and sent it under my name, only using her own photo. She told me later she didn't think they'd actually check and that she just wanted to see what kind of job she could get if she had the right credentials. I was furious. I told her she could have gotten me blacklisted in my industry. She brushed it off and said, "Relax, it's not like I used your social or anything." But here's the kicker, she did. When I checked my credit report a few months later, there was a soft inquiry from that company. They'd run a background check using my info. I confronted Natalie again, and she finally admitted she'd submitted everything through an online portal using my details because she thought it would make her look more legit. She didn't seem to get how serious that was. She said she just wanted to see what it felt like to be you for a minute. I cut contact for a few months. She eventually apologized, cried, and said she was desperate and jealous of how easy my life seemed. Against my better judgment, I forgave her. Our parents begged me to move on, saying, "She's family. Don't ruin the relationship over a mistake." Things settled down until 3 months ago, when Natalie's lease ended and she asked if she could crash with me for a little while. I live in a one-bedroom apartment and enjoy my solitude, but she said it would be temporary, maybe a month tops, until she found a new place. I reluctantly agreed. At first, it was fine. She helped with groceries, kept the place clean, and seemed genuinely thankful. Then she started using my things without asking. Makeup, clothes, even my work laptop once when hers died. I told her multiple times to stop touching my stuff, and she'd say, "Chill, we're sisters." 2 weeks ago, I came home early from work and found her in my office space on a Zoom call. She was wearing one of my blouses, and the company logo on the background looked way too familiar. When she noticed me, she quickly muted herself and closed her laptop. I asked who she was talking to, and she admitted it was a job interview. You can probably guess what's next. She was applying for another marketing role, and she'd used my LinkedIn profile to make it look like she had my job experience again. She had even logged into my computer to download my project reports as work samples. I completely lost it. I told her to pack her stuff and get out immediately. She started crying, saying I was overreacting, that she just wanted a chance to prove herself, and that nobody would have believed in her otherwise. She said she only did it because I never share anything, and that it was selfish of me not to help my own sister succeed. I refused to budge. She ended up calling our parents, who of course took her side. They said I was being cold and unforgiving, and that Natalie clearly looks up to me. They accused me of ruining her future when I told them I was considering reporting the identity misuse to the company she interviewed with. My dad said, "You don't put family in legal trouble over a mistake," and my mom told me I should be proud that Natalie aspires to be like me. Since then, Natalie's been blowing up my phone with messages ranging from apologies to guilt trips. She says she's homeless now and that she can't believe I'd abandon her like this. I know she's staying with a friend, but apparently it's not going well, and she's begging to come back just until she gets on her feet. I told her absolutely not. I said I can't trust her in my home, and I'm not putting my career or identity at risk again. She told me I'm heartless and that I'll regret choosing my pride over family. My parents are still furious, saying she'll never recover emotionally from this rejection. Now I'm torn. Part of me feels guilty because she's my sister, and I know she's struggling. But the other part of me can't shake the fear that if I let her back in, she'll do something worse. She already proved she doesn't understand boundaries or consequences. And the fact that she doesn't even see how serious identity theft is makes me think she's not done. Still, the guilt is eating at me. I grew up being the one who fixed things, who kept the peace. But this time, I honestly don't know if I'm being too harsh or finally setting a healthy boundary. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she stole my identity twice. AITA for refusing to give my sister the family heirloom because of how she treated me during my wedding. So I, 32F, recently got married, and the entire process was pretty stressful for a variety of reasons. One of the main stressors was my sister, Lisa, 35F. Our relationship has always been a little tense. She's competitive, opinionated, and has this habit of turning every situation into a chance to show off. I love her, but she's exhausting. That being said, I try to keep her involved in my wedding planning because I wanted to be fair and because I thought it would be a chance for us to bond. The problem started about 6 months before the wedding. I had inherited a family heirloom, a necklace that had been passed down from my grandmother to my mother, and then to me. It's an ornate, antique piece with intricate detailing, and it's basically irreplaceable. I didn't plan to wear it during the wedding because I didn't want to risk losing it or damaging it, but I wanted to have it around the family and maybe display it during the reception. Lisa, however, made it immediately clear she thought she was more entitled to it. She kept making offhand comments about how she would look better in it, how she deserved it, because she's older, and even suggested she should be allowed to borrow it for the wedding. I told her repeatedly that it was my choice and that I wasn't planning to give it to anyone else right now. She would sigh dramatically, roll her eyes, and at one point stormed out of my planning session saying, "I can't believe you'd be so selfish with something that belongs to the family." I tried to brush it off, thinking she was just being dramatic, but it was a preview of what was coming. On the day of my wedding, Lisa did not behave well at all. She made constant critical comments about my dress, my makeup, and even my bridesmaids' dresses. She kept showing up late to everything and made multiple passive-aggressive remarks in front of guests. The worst incident, though, was during the family photos. She decided to borrow the necklace from the display I had set up in the reception hall and put it on herself without asking. She strutted around showing it off to our relatives, saying things like, "Look at this, isn't it amazing? I should be the one wearing this." When I confronted her, she said, "Relax, it's just for a few minutes. Don't be dramatic." My mom ended up intervening and took the necklace back to the display, but by then, I was already fuming. After the wedding, Lisa kept bringing up the necklace. She called me multiple times demanding to know when she would get it, saying things like, "You're holding onto it too long," and, "You know it would mean more if it went to me." I told her I wasn't ready to pass it on yet, and reminded her of her behavior at the wedding. She accused me of being petty and selfish and suggested that my husband and I were trying to monopolize the family history. Now here's where the current conflict comes in. My mother recently told me she wanted me to decide who should inherit the necklace when the time comes. She said that she trusts my judgment and that she wants to make sure it goes to someone who respects it. When I told Lisa that I would probably hold on to it for now and that I needed more time to think about the future, she completely lost it. She sent me a long text listing every instance she felt she had been wronged in the past year, including my wedding, and then ended it with, "If you don't give me that necklace, you're officially disowning me as your sister." I responded calmly, reiterating that the necklace is valuable and sentimental, and that I want whoever inherits it to understand its importance and treat it with respect. I also reminded her of how she acted during my wedding and why that made me hesitant to entrust it to her. She has not spoken to me since, and she has started telling other family members that I am being unreasonable and cruel. I understand that she might feel hurt because she thinks she deserves the necklace as the older sibling, but I also feel like her behavior in my wedding showed a lack of respect for both me and the heirloom itself. My mom is supportive of my decision, but I'm starting to get texts from cousins and extended family asking if I'm going to split things fairly and insinuating that I'm being unfair to Lisa. I'm honestly torn because I don't want to start a full-blown family feud, but at the same time, I feel like Lisa needs to understand that her actions have consequences, and giving her the necklace after how she behaved would feel wrong. I want to be fair to everyone in the long term, but right now, giving her the heirloom feels like rewarding bad behavior. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my sister the family heirloom after the way she acted during my wedding. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she embarrassed me in front of my friends. 28F, have always been close with my younger sister, Emily, 25F, but lately, things have gotten complicated. For some context, Emily and I grew up in a very tight-knit family where my parents often relied on me to be the responsible one. I have a pretty busy life. I work in marketing, I'm building a small side business, and I try to maintain an active social life. Emily, on the other hand, has always been a little more free-spirited and prone to drama. But I've always loved her and tried to support her as much as I could. A few months ago, Emily got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark. She was ecstatic and immediately started talking about her wedding plans. I was genuinely happy for her, but I started noticing some red flags in the way she was treating me during the planning process. It all came to a head at my birthday party last month. I had invited a small group of friends over for a low-key evening, and Emily came with Mark. Early in the night, she began bringing up her wedding repeatedly, like constantly interrupting conversations to talk about table settings, floral arrangements, and the guest list. I tried to politely steer the conversation back to my birthday, but she ignored my hints. The worst part happened when I was showing a funny meme on my phone to a couple of friends. Emily suddenly grabbed my phone, started scrolling through my camera roll, and loudly announced a photo of me in an awkward outfit from a work event, saying, "Look at what my sister wears. No wonder she's single." Everyone went silent. My friends were polite, but visibly uncomfortable, and I felt humiliated. I tried to laugh it off, but inside I was furious. After that night, I made the decision that I needed some distance from Emily, at least when it came to wedding stuff. A few days later, she called me and asked if I could help her with choosing bridesmaids' dresses, decorations, and seating arrangements. I told her honestly that I wasn't comfortable being involved after what happened on my birthday. She got upset and said I was overreacting and that I should just get over it because it was a joke. I reminded her that being publicly embarrassed in front of my friends was not funny and that her behavior had crossed a line. Emily then tried to guilt-trip me by saying she couldn't plan the wedding without me and that I was being selfish. I explained that I could still attend the wedding and support her in other ways, but I was not going to participate in the planning process or any activities where I might feel demeaned again. She accused me of being dramatic and said I was ruining her wedding experience. My parents are on her side and keep texting me, asking me to just compromise and not make a big deal out of nothing. My friends, however, have all said they support me and understand why I don't want to be involved in something that embarrassed me so deeply. Since then, Emily has been posting passive-aggressive updates about her wedding planning on social media, clearly aimed at me. She made a post about how hard it is when family members don't support you, which I know is about me because she tagged our mom in it. I haven't responded to any of her posts. My dilemma is this. I genuinely love my sister, and I don't want to completely alienate her. But I also feel like she crossed a boundary by humiliating me in front of my friends, and she hasn't shown any real remorse. I want to be a supportive sister, but I also need to protect my own mental health. I feel like attending the wedding and being happy for her is one thing, but helping her plan it is another, especially if she might publicly embarrass me again. My friends tell me I'm not the asshole, and they think I have every right to set boundaries, but my parents think I should forgive and forget because it's her special day. My boyfriend has told me that it's reasonable to stand up for myself and that Emily's reaction shows a lack of maturity. I'm now worried that my refusal to help will completely ruin our relationship, and Emily might hold a grudge for years. I don't want that, but I also don't want to compromise my dignity. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my sister plan her wedding after she publicly embarrassed me at my birthday party. Character count, 6,187 if you want. I can also create a version that pushes closer to the 7,000 character mark with more family dynamics, deeper inner monologue, and extra tense wedding planning drama. It would make it feel even more like the highly upvoted AITA stories. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she called me selfish. 32F. have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister, Emma, 28F. Growing up, we were close at times, but as adults, our personalities and life choices have clashed in ways that often create tension. I have a demanding career in tech, which often requires long hours and travel. Emma, on the other hand, works part-time at a boutique, has 2 kids under the age of 6, and is very involved in our extended family social life. A few months ago, Emma called me out of the blue one afternoon asking if I could watch her kids for an entire weekend. She said she and her husband wanted a child-free weekend to recharge because they had been stressed with work and parenting. She was very casual about it, like this was something I should immediately say yes to without question. I hesitated. I explained that my work schedule is unpredictable and that I usually plan my weekends for rest or catching up on projects. I told her I couldn't guarantee being available for a full weekend on such short notice. She got quiet for a moment and then said, "I can't believe you're being selfish. You're always doing your own thing, and we never get help from you." I was taken aback. I do help in other ways. I've taken them to doctor appointments when I could. I've occasionally helped with birthday parties, and I regularly offer to buy things for the kids when I travel. But I realized she wasn't thinking about those things. She was focused on this one weekend. I tried to negotiate. I said, I could watch them for one afternoon, or maybe Saturday morning, but not the whole weekend. Emma got frustrated and accused me of always finding excuses and said I clearly didn't care about family. I finally said no to the full weekend. She hung up without another word. After that, things between us got tense. Our parents called me to ask what was going on. Emma told them that I refused to help and called me selfish. My parents were shocked because they always saw me as helpful and generous, and they suggested I reconsider for the sake of family harmony. I stood my ground. The following week, Emma sent a group chat message to our extended family about needing help with the kids. Several cousins immediately volunteered, which honestly made me feel a little relieved. However, Emma then sent me a private message asking why I couldn't just step up like everyone else and accused me of being the sister who never contributes. She also reminded me that she had always babysat my kids when I was busy. I don't have kids, but I used to help with neighbor kids when she would ask. At this point, I started feeling guilty, but I also felt like her expectations were unreasonable. I tried to explain again that I don't have kids, I have a busy career, and I can't just drop everything for last-minute requests. I also pointed out that helping occasionally and helping all weekend are 2 very different things. She didn't respond, but the tension escalated at our last family gathering. She avoided me the entire time and made several pointed comments to our parents about how disappointed she was in me. Things came to a head last week. Emma called me crying because her husband had to work unexpectedly, and she didn't have childcare. She asked again if I could watch the kids, even just for a few hours. I agreed to help for 2 hours in the afternoon, thinking that was fair. When I arrived, the kids were overtired, grumpy, and messy, which is expected, and I ended up staying a bit longer than I initially planned just to calm them down. After she returned, Emma was cold and said I should have stayed longer because this is what family does. I tried to explain that I already gave more time than I originally agreed and that I had work and other commitments, but she started crying and saying I never sacrifice anything for anyone else. Since then, Emma has mostly ignored me. She sends passive-aggressive texts about family gatherings and has made a few comments in group chats that make it clear she thinks I'm selfish. Our parents are caught in the middle, unsure if I should just help more to keep the peace. I considered setting firmer boundaries, but I don't want this to completely ruin my relationship with my sister. I do genuinely care about her and her kids. I sometimes feel guilty because she's struggling, and I know my time is more flexible than I make it sound. At the same time, I feel like she expects me to prioritize her family over my career and personal life without any compromise. I also feel like the way she shames me for being selfish is unfair, given that I help in other ways and contribute financially or with smaller acts of support. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids for a full weekend and standing firm on my boundaries? Or should I just accept that being selfish sometimes is worth family harmony? Character count, 6,278 if you want. I can create another one that's even longer and more dramatic, with multiple family conflicts and a bigger blow-up moment that would read like one of the most popular Reddit AITA stories. This one is more subtle and realistic, but I can make the next one almost cinematic in scope. Do you want me to do that? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.